Look, at this point, you're under arrest for obstruction. So you need to step out of the car.
No.
Come on, miss. Come on now.
Just come on out.
Come on, miss. Let's step out of there.
Wait a minute.
You're under arrest
No.
now.
Just relax. Just relax.
Ample opportunity.
Miss, come on. Here you go. Thank you.
No.
No need for all that, miss.
What did I do?
You're under arrest now for DUI and...
Hi.
Hello, can I get your license, registration, proof of insurance?
Yeah. May I ask why?
Why? Because you're parked in a handicap spot and I don't see a placard.
Oh, but I just moved in here quickly.
No time frame on the placard. Can I see your license, registration, proof of insurance?
Sure.
2 Bravo 98, final 20, 1201 45th Street. Alright, can I see your license?
I don't understand why.
I told you why, ma'am, so I'm going to need to see your license.
The officer begins a basic traffic stop after noticing the car parked in a handicap space without a visible permit. From a legal standpoint, this is a clear violation, which gives the officer authority to approach and request the driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. Instead of cooperating, the driver immediately becomes hesitant and starts questioning why she was stopped, even though the officer clearly explains the reason. Legally, during a traffic stop, a driver is required to provide identification, and delaying or refusing can escalate the situation. She then tries to call her attorney instead of handing over her documents. While she does have the right to contact a lawyer, that right does not delay or override the officer's lawful request for identification during an active stop. The officer repeatedly asks for her license, keeping the interaction focused on compliance. Throughout this exchange, the officer remains patient and continues giving clear instructions, but the driver keeps stalling and avoiding direct cooperation. From a legal perspective, this behavior begins to shift the stop from a simple parking violation into a situation where further enforcement may be necessary due to noncompliance.
Well, one thing at a time.
I'm sorry?
One thing at a time.
No, I'm going to need your license and proof of insurance.
The voicemail of attorney David Schroeder. He's currently unavailable.
He's unavailable, so, ma'am, I'm going to ask you, please. You don't have to make it harder than it has to be.
Did I do something wrong?
Yeah, you parked in a handicapped spot without a placard. Where are you coming from?
Just my house.
Your house?
Here.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually I was...
Can I just get your license, please?
One second. One second. One second for me. Okay. Reading.
Is there a problem?
Yeah, there is. I'm pulling you over, or traffic stop for not having the placard, so can I get your license and proof of insurance? You haven't given me that yet. Ma'am, we're going to need your license. Okay.
I have all of the above.
Literally just one with the 2 words, like, yeah.
Yeah.
What the...
Were you just getting cigarettes at the store? Be honest with me, what were you here for?
Yes, I was getting cigarettes at the
cigarettes.
store. Yes. Oh my God, do you think I was here for something else? Stop it.
I don't know, what do you think I could
Are you joking me right now?
I'm not joking, I'm just asking you some questions.
I am 100% here for only cigarettes.
Okay.
What else did you think that I was here for?
I don't know, that's why I'm asking.
1000% no.
Whoa,
Whoa. Why do you guys think that I'm here for something else? Okay.
You got it. Glossy on nice word speech. Won't give me your license.
I was 1,000% nothing here for anything else
What'd
other
y'all stop
than
for?
cigarettes.
She was parked in handicap, no placard.
Oh.
What the heck?
I can display nothing.
Yeah.
Do you?
Glossy eyes, so to speak.
I just, there was no other parking and everybody else. Have you, has anybody seen the things that have happened to me? Do you want to look at the back side of the car? That's from,
Okay, ma'am. Can you do me a favor? Step out of the car.
no,
Well, ma'am, hold on. Wait a minute. Come
No.
on now. Be reasonable.
no.
You are licensed Florida. You have a licensed Florida driver's license.
Yes.
Okay. You need to cooperate with the police right now. Could you hand over your license to him,
Oh,
please?
I'm going to call my friend. That's a
Ma'am, I need
supervisor.
your license. I need your license.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we've already done that. And
Yes.
So,
So, can you?
what is,
I need your license before I can tell you what's going to go on from here. I need your license.
oh my gosh.
Okay. And I know they explained this to her. Just re-explain to her where she's parked in a handicap park.
Yeah,
You don't have
Oh,
a placard.
so this is like how this,
you're parked in a handicap parking space and you don't have a placard. So,
So that's a violation.
yes, that's a violation. It's
And that's why you
$250 fine.
That's why you need a license, registration, and insurance.
Yes, and I need your license, registration, and insurance. Ma'am.
thank you for that information, but I'm gonna hold on for 1 second.
We got
I
a
don't
female
know why you
officer
guys,
that can come in for a pat down.
Yes.
We'll get him started here. We're gonna show you something, ma'am.
okay,
you
so
don't-
I'm gonna
let-
call
let
my
me-
friend
if you-
who's the
if you don't mind.
supervisor of the
you don't
FBI.
mind.
That's fine. I'm gonna call my friend.
You can call who you want to call. But right now, listen to me.
Thank
Give me
you.
this. Give me this. Give it to me. Give it to me.
You can't go and
I
touch
can.
my phone.
Yes, I can. I can, ma'am. Because you, yes, I can. Because you gotta pay attention to what you're doing. Okay.
This is not allowed.
you-
This is
what's not-
1,000% not allowed.
Here's 100,000%. You need to cooperate with the police when you commit a violation. So listen, you don't get to call your FBI friend. You get to listen to us.
Oh my gosh.
Do you have your license, registration, and insurance? I need it right now.
Yes.
Hand it over, please. Please, ma'am. This is a
I
traffic
would like
stop.
my phone back.
Okay.
Again.
Are you? If you don't give me your license,
What did I do?
you parked in the handicap. Look straight ahead.
This is for a
Look
handicap spot.
straight ahead, ma'am. Trust your own.
This is for a handicap
Are you
spot.
handicapped?
Trust your own eyes. First of all, look at the violation. Look straight ahead.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Hold on.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
You can close it.
Close the door. Close the door.
Ma'am, listen. Could you listen to me?
What is going on
Look
right now?
straight ahead right there. What does that say?
And so this is
No.
so everything that's going on right
Could
here
you
in
spell
this
the strong
neighborhood.
roll? I know I go-
Yeah.
In this neighborhood,
Could
this is really the most necessary thing.
Yes. Could you look
Hey
straight?
Siri, call mom.
Here's what I'm gonna ask you. One time,
Hey Siri,
you've
call
been.
mom.
I need your license, I got the registration. Need your proof of insurance. Could you hand that over, please?
At this point, the officer continues trying to move the stop forward, but the driver keeps avoiding direct answers and becomes more defensive. When asked simple questions about why she's there, she responds with sarcasm and confusion instead of cooperating. From a legal standpoint, officers are allowed to ask basic questions during a stop to assess the situation, and the driver is expected to comply. As backup arrives, the officers clearly explain the violation again, that she's parked in a handicap space without a permit, and once more request her license and documents. Even with multiple explanations, she delays and tries to call other people instead of following instructions. This continued refusal starts building grounds for obstruction. The officers then take control of the situation by directing her attention to the handicap sign, making it clear the stop is valid. After repeated requests, she finally hands over some documents, but only after significant delay, which has already escalated the encounter. By the end of this segment, officers begin to notice signs that raise suspicion of intoxication. The tone shifts from a simple violation to a possible DUI investigation. Legally, once an officer observes indicators like behavior, speech, or odor, they are allowed to expand the stop and investigate further, setting the stage for what happens next.
I'm not.
I'm gonna get out of here.
No, because you know what? As my
This is my last time asking you. I need you to get out of the vehicle now. Before I bring
Okay.
you out of the vehicle.
all right, you know what? Thank you for that, but no.
Ma'am,
No. No.
Here's what's going on.
No. You know what? As my father is like the president. My
She's under
father.
arrest for obstruction.
My father is the president of.
Look, at this point, you're under arrest for obstruction. So you need to step out of the car.
No.
Come on, miss. Come on now. Just come on out. Come on, miss. Let's step off there, man.
Wait a minute.
You're under arrest
No.
right now. Just relax. Just relax. Ample opportunity. Come on. Here you go. Thank you.
No.
No need for all that, miss.
What did I do?
You're under arrest for DUI and obstruction. There you go. Miss, come on now. She's on 2 minutes.
That's all. That's all. I feel like that's all. That's all. Thank you.
Show DUI 10 with a white female 1015 for signal 1. Get signal 1 case over.
This one's loose. Clean the road.
I mean,
This one got clean the road too.
You sure?
Positive. Okay.
Before she get in your car and start
Yeah.
filling around?
So look.
oh,
Clean the
wait.
road.
Alright, you want to do that?
Bad case number 141546. 141546.
Alright. Come on.
All right, stop. Close my door. Please.
No, you got her stuff.
No, my purse
Yeah,
and
all
everything.
right.
No, my phone and everything. Honestly, what? Okay. All right.
Then you just come and get a search, okay?
Okay, all right, no problem.
Yeah. Can we stop here?
That's fine.
until
No,
we-
we're not going to this
I
car.
would
We're going
like
to this
to-
car.
That car.
Yeah. No. So I would like to stay here and like
Yeah, well, you can
notice.
stand here in front of me.
I notice like what's going on in my car.
John Runner. No, she got it. Alright, you just said that?
No.
Right.
I tried talking to you. You didn't want to talk.
Hey, I do the same. Hello, ma'am. I'm going to take you, Bell.
Hi.
I'm going to check you, okay? Make sure you don't have anything on you. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, turn around, face the car. Spread your feet, please. You don't have anything on you that may stick me? No?
Nothing.
Okay. You got piercings, like belly button piercings?
No.
No?
This is the best out of everything. Out of everything. Out of everything. Yes.
Who can I call? I don't want to
My
call.
mother
Where's your mom?
in Jupiter.
Nothing. She come get your vehicle?
Yes.
All right.
Call her, please. Yes.
Her phone's on top of the car.
Any problem?
She's good? Okay, all right, thank you. Come on.
Any bobby pins?
Oh no. Can I wait, please?
Bobby pins? Any bobby pins in here?
Maybe two.
2 bobby pins?
Maybe two. No more than TSA would agree to.
Now, the situation is fully under control and shifts into the post-arrest process. The driver is searched, secured, and prepared for transport, which is standard procedure after a lawful arrest. Officers check for any items on her and ensure everything is documented properly. She continues asking questions about her car and requests to call her mother, showing concern about the consequences now that she's in custody. From a legal standpoint, once a person is arrested, officers focus on safety, property handling, and transportation rather than debating the reason for the arrest. Officers explain that her vehicle will be taken care of and try to guide her through the process, emphasizing that things could have been much simpler if she had followed instructions earlier. This reflects a key legal principle. Compliance during a stop can often prevent escalation. In the end, what started as a minor parking violation turned into multiple charges, including DUI and obstruction. The outcome highlights how refusal to cooperate and escalating behavior can quickly turn a simple situation into a serious legal issue.
That's the initiated contact.
We're going, you're having a seat in the car. Let's go. Let's go.
Careful.
Can you not? I'm not aggressive.
No,
I'm not
nobody
aggressive.
say you are. Just have a seat. Watch
Have
your
a
head
seat.
stepping in. Watch your head.
Watch yourself.
Go ahead. Put your leg up, please. There you go. Thank you. Be careful. Watch your head.
Can somebody
Put your other leg
please-
in, please. Put your other leg in. There you go.
But
yourself in.
I
Can you
want to
face
have.
forward?
Wait, can I listen?
Can you face forward?
Can I? have my mother come and get the car before my car gets towed.
We're gonna take care of it. We're gonna take care of it.
I don't want my car to get towed.
I got it. We're gonna take care of it.
Because if it gets towed,
I got it. Can you face forward?
if it gets towed,
Ma'am, what's your name, Miss Jessica?
yes.
Okay,
If-
can you just do me a favor and just face forward so I can put the seatbelt on you? Face
if
forward.
no, because if it gets towed
I got it,
the
I got
wrong
it.
way, then it won't be.
I got it.
It's gonna be like a very expensive expense.
Yes, I understand that. So I had to strap
What
you in so
what
we can
car
take.
do you drive?
I drive this car, the one you're in. I drive that.
But if it
Ma'am.
gets towed
Ma'am, sit back. Sit
improperly,
back. Sit back.
and I don't have my.
When you came over that
So how old are you?
there was a big sign that said no alcohol.
Put your hands behind your back.
Sir, I didn't know. Sir, I'm nervous. I think she was just trying to stop.
Listen to me. Stay seated. I asked you for your ID the first time. You gave me the fake ID. I asked you for your name and date of birth. You tell me 02. I say 02. You say no 03. Listen to me. I checked the system for 03. Nothing on file. Listen to me. How old are you? You say you're 20. I checked the system for 03. Nothing comes up. I asked you again. Hey, nothing's coming up. Oh, it's 04. How old are you? Now you're 19. First chance I was going to give you the ID. I was going to try to see the system, see if anything came up, see if you were being honest. You're not being honest. I'm done with it. We're not here for this back and forth games. It's spring break. I just want to have fun. You had your chance, and you already lied to me 3 times. 3 strikes, I'm done. That's it. You're going to jail. Stand up.
Okay, so wait now.
Stand up.
I've never done this before. Sir,
You're going to have a seat right here.
The game plan.
it's 04. I'm telling you that.
Have a seat.
I know.
Have a seat.
The officer quickly realizes something isn't right with the student's identification. She initially hands over a fake ID, and when questioned about her name and date of birth, she keeps changing her answers. From a legal standpoint, this is a major issue because providing false information to law enforcement is a separate offense on its own. The officer checks the system multiple times, and nothing matches the information she's giving. Each time he asks again, her story changes, from one birth year to another, making it clear she's not being truthful. At this point, the situation shifts from a simple ID check into an investigation of false identification. The officer even gives her chances to correct herself, but she continues to give inconsistent answers. Legally, this shows intent to deceive, which strengthens the case against her. What could have been handled as a minor underage drinking situation is now becoming more serious due to dishonesty. By the end of this moment, the officer decides he's done giving chances. Based on the fake ID and repeated false statements, he establishes probable cause and informs her she is going to jail, turning the situation into a full arrest.
Did you think you were really going to get away with it? Well, you got a good attitude. You did something wrong, you got to own up to it. That's exactly how you... They said them.
You can step out. So you're just gonna walk over right up to him where he's at the door.
Be alone. Doesn't matter. I've done some kind of commitment. Hello? Okay.
Because there's
Yeah, I got another female, yeah. If you don't mind to share with the female. That's why I asked. You don't have to do something stupid, right? Okay. I just want to be sure.
You put the shorts on.
At this stage, the situation is already under control, and the focus shifts to processing the arrest. The student is secured, and officers begin handling her belongings, confirming what items belong to her and what will be taken as evidence. From a legal standpoint, anything connected to the offense, like the fake ID or alcohol, can be confiscated. The tone also changes here. The officer acknowledges that she understands she made a mistake, but reinforces that actions have consequences. This reflects an important legal reality. Once probable cause is established, the arrest process continues regardless of attitude afterward. As she is escorted and placed into the patrol vehicle, everything is done according to standard procedure, ensuring safety, securing property, and preparing for transport. There's no more debate about what happened, only the formal steps that follow an arrest. In the end, this situation highlights a simple but important lesson. What started as underage drinking could have been minor, but using a fake ID and repeatedly lying turned it into a much more serious legal issue, leading directly to her arrest.
Really? I never had the chance to get one when I was back in my days. How do you guys can find those? Not too tight?
No.
Okay. Watch you step in the head, okay?